Hello everyone, it's Gordon. So today I'm going to show you how to do a coolant bypass or block off for your heater core on your E30. This is my 325E 1987. So the reason you want to block off your heater core or bypass it is usually because it's leaking and you don't feel like replacing that. The heater cores can be pretty expensive and it can be pretty hard to replace them because you have to pull out a lot of your dash to get to it. So a few people do this. My car is mostly meant to be a beater and I live in a really warm climate, so I don't really need a heater for it. So a lot of people bypass the heater core by looping the intake and the outtake hoses for the coolant that go to the heater core, but actually this causes a loop of hot coolant that is just heading right back into your car on the back end, and so it's better to actually block them off. So when that heated up coolant is trying to escape the engine, it's not just getting sent right back into it. It'll find the other exit and hopefully go through the radiator instead of the back of the engine. So that's why you're going to want to do a block off instead of a loop. It will help your coolant stay cooler. I have heard people looping these engines and it works for them fine, but I just really like for my coolant to be as cool as possible, especially because I like to really push my cars to the limit, and it does get pretty hot out here, as I said. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to drain all the coolant that's already in the vehicle. I'm pretty sure the previous owner kind of just ran this car dry. There's definitely a lot of reasons why you don't want to run it dry of coolant, but I'm going to show you where the bung is to release all your coolant, and we'll see what comes out of there for us. Alright, so here's a little bung here at the bottom of your radiator. It's just a little screw, comes unscrewed, and we'll see what pops out of there. It should be on your driver's side of your vehicle if you're from the US. If you have a UK version or any other version, I'm not really sure, but you should probably be able to find it on the bottom of your radiator pretty simply. It'll just be at the lowest point. And there is supposed to be 3 gallons almost worth of coolant in your vehicle, so you should probably have a pretty large pan to catch all of that. So this is what I have right here, and this is what I'll use. Alright, so I don't know how much you can see, but a lot of green fluid. So that green color often means that there's an inferior coolant that was put in there for BMWs, or someone was using a undistilled water in the engine. Both of these are issues with BMWs and their aluminum blocks. It'll cause corrosion in the coolant lines and everything. So what you really want to do is flush that out. I also wanted to note that my bung was completely destroyed, so you can also pull off the hose that's right next to it to dump everything. So that's what I did, because there's no way that bung was coming out, and if it was, it wasn't going back in, so I figured I might as well just leave it and pull the hose right next to it. That might be the better option for you as well. You'll just have to figure it out as you go. But once you pull that hose off, be ready with your pan, because it will dump coolant pretty much immediately. So gonna show you guys where the coolant hoses are for the heater core. It's pretty dark in here, so let me get a light real quick. Alright, so I already pulled the hoses off. You can see that one right there, and the other one a little bit lower down there. They both go onto these two pipes coming out of the firewall, which you can see right here, one above the other. They're a bit corroded, it looks like, but not really my concern anymore. A lot of people loop these two together. That's kind of the incorrect way to do it, because that creates a loop of coolant that's not going through the radiator and just creates this loop of warm coolant, and that just gets sent back into the head of your engine. So instead of doing that, we're going to put these little metal plugs into the ends of these and use the hose clamps that are already there to just block them off so that the coolant doesn't flow through it really. And doing this will still have flow through the front of the engine, through the radiator in the normal way, and it'll keep the engine a bit cooler than if you were to loop these two, just because that coolant isn't recirculating in the back end here, and it can just go straight to the radiator again. So I'm just going to do that right now. It's pretty hard to show you that and hold the camera at the same time. So these are the plugs that I got for them. Kind of just a regular looking old thing, 18 millimeter. I'll have the link in the description of the video, but got some grooves on it so that it doesn't come out. I believe these are designed for a blow-off valve, so they should be able to hold the pressure of the coolant no problem. Condor Racing Speed Shop has their own ones and a Blockoff plate that they use for the lower hose. It's fairly impossible to get in there without taking your engine out, so that's why I'm using two of these on both the plugs instead of completely blocking off the bottom one. When I change the engine to the other car, I will probably end up purchasing that Blockoff plate to do it proper and not have those extra hoses in the engine bay. But for now, this should work. So let's put them in. Alright guys, so I put the plugs in. You can see the one there. Put my light down there. One there, one down below it. Try and push them kind of back towards where the hoses are supposed to be, just to have the space there. I might end up zip tying them to the old bits here, just on the side of them over here, just to keep the spacing where it's supposed to be for all the hoses and everything. I don't want anything rubbing up against anything it shouldn't really, more than it has to. So I'm gonna flush my coolant system a few times with some distilled water and try to get all that green gunk out of there as much as I can, to try and salvage as much of the coolant system as I can. So I really don't want to spend any extra money on this car that I don't have to, so I'm gonna do that. That's why I have all the distilled water in the back of the car. just to dump through the lines. So we're probably gonna fill the radiator up with it, and then run the car till it's up to temperature, and then dump that fluid, and do that a couple of times just to try and get all that green gunk out of there, which is the technical term used by BMW. So I will get rid of my green goo. Alright, at this point I put that bottom radiator hose that I took off to drain it back on, because I'm going to fill everything with distilled water. I actually already did that, so as you can see, it's full of water in the reservoir there. I've opened up the bleed valve and it's just bubbling out right now. That's my dog Vader barking because he hears me out here. So what I gotta do now is just run the car, get it up to temperature, and I'm just gonna dump everything out of that hose again, try and get as much of that green goo out as I can. So let's do that now, I guess. And the battery's dead. So I guess I'll have to jump it because this car's an excellent piece of German engineering. Let's call it that. Alright, so tried to flush the coolant a little bit off screen just to make sure everything was working right, and it definitely isn't. There's definitely coolant leaking into the engine, so probably has a blown head gasket, or the head itself is cracked. I won't know until I pull that off and take a look at that. But as far as this project goes, that's where I'm gonna end my part of it. But what you'd want to do is, yeah, just flush your system a good few times until you stop getting green out of it, and then you're going to want to fill it with actual BMW coolant that's blue. There's a lot of debate on whether you need actual BMW brand or Prestone, or if you can just use off-the-shelf ones nowadays that say they're BMW and are blue. I don't really know much about that, but I definitely would use something that's blue instead of like the regular green that you get with some other cars, because obviously that's not going to show you if you're getting contaminants into your coolant, because it's already going to be green. It's a little bit gooier, the residue that builds up, but it'll still be pretty hard to tell compared to the blue turning green, you know. Besides that, yeah, so you fill it with coolant, get the car up to temperature. Usually you want the front of the car an inch higher than the rear of the car, so you can really bleed it out of the bleed valve up front here. You can watch other videos on that. Really, this is where my project ends until I can start pulling apart this engine. I'll take a video of that, I guess. Just me ripping it down, taking off the head. I have to see if I can reuse the head, or if I'm gonna switch immediately, because the point of this car was to make a super ETA, which is basically the bottom end of this engine with the top end of 320i, or I believe you can use the 323i. there's a few other ways to do it as well with different heads, but that's probably the route that I want to take after some research. Yeah, so the condition of this head determines whether I swap to that head immediately, because they're a bit more expensive because people know that people want them and they're a bit more uncommon. But if the one that's in this is still, I can have it resurfaced or something and it's not completely cracked, then I might just end up reusing this, because there's a lot of other parts I'd have to swap when I'm swapping that head. I might get a standalone ECU at that point, just to really get down to tuning it proper. I don't know, but yeah, so that's it for this video. Catch me in the next one, I guess. It's gonna be a time, definitely.